All right, 1 second here. All right, 1 second here. All right, welcome everyone. We are holding by the Book of Leviticus, chapter 17. Again, welcome everyone. We are holding by the Book of Leviticus chapter 17. We're still in verse 11. The Torah says, "Kinev Shabosar, V'domu, v'ani nasati v'lochem al mizbeach, v'chaper al nafshosechem, yedamu b'nefesh, yechaper." Right? The Torah says, as we've been speaking about for a number of weeks, the life of the flesh and the blood, given it to you upon the altar to make a atonement, right, for your souls, because the blood with the life that makes atonement. So we spoke last week, or actually 2 weeks ago. So it was way last week. So we spoke about the Or Chaim HaKadosh, brought down the Or Chaim HaKadosh right over here. And we talked about the fact, why does it say also the flesh? Right? Why does it say the flesh? Just says blood over here. We talked about how it has an effect. Right? You got the flesh and the blood, so to speak, keeps the person alive, right? The blood in the flesh, in the meat, right, of a person, right? The flesh, probably a better word, etc. So the Or Chaim HaKadosh here continues, and the Or Chaim HaKadosh here says there's another thing going on here, right? And that is that to warn about eating the soul of an animal, right? We mentioned a number of times the soul, right? The blood, the soul is the soul of a person, right? The blood, the soul of an animal. Animals, we said, don't have free will, right? They are 100% programmed. They're programmed DNA. But nonetheless, an animal, just like a human, is going to live because the soul is alive. And then when the animal dies, that's it. The soul goes out of the animal dies. And what happens? Goes in the ground. Nothing happens, right? No doggy heaven over here, no horsey heaven. Animal dies, right? Even if a person was reincarnated, right? A person could be reincarnated. His soul could go into an animal, but even if the animal dies, the soul goes up. That animal is not going to have a portion of the world to come. In either case, comes on the Or Chaim HaKadosh. The Or Chaim here says it's a warning on the soul of an animal, right? The soul of an animal, everyone has that, right? Jews and non-Jews. We all have the soul, so to speak, of an animal. We have an animalistic soul. It's what keeps us alive, right? Essentially, what keeps us alive. So the soul of an animal, he says, gives the person life, right? It makes us function. So why did God give us the blood of an animal? Right? What was the purpose of giving us the blood of an animal? Again, the blood, the whole point is keeps the person alive, right? The soul's in the blood. Very good, right? That was part of the soul, right? It's connected to the blood. Otherwise, the person wouldn't live. That's why you need a certain amount of blood in the body. If the person has a certain amount of blood, they can live, right? The question is how much of blood, but a person can have a certain amount of blood in order to function, right? In order to live. So why did God give blood? Says Or Chaim HaKadosh, God gave blood to an animal for what purpose? Atonement. Blood goes on the altar, right? Blood is used for atonement. And that's what it says. That he put on the altar. Put on the altar for atonement. Okay, now that wouldn't be the case. Right? He says we find the Gemara in Sanhedrin, beginning of Sanhedrin, that says that an animal that has to be put to death is judged by Beis Din of 23. In other words, Beis Din of 3, rabbinical court of 3. Right? The Gemara goes through a whole list of things that it judges, or let's say better, that they judge, i.e., loss of damages, marriage, divorce, right? Many other things. Beis Din of 23, right? Rabbinical court of 23, things that have to do with death, right? Death penalty, so to speak. So there can be a death penalty for animals, right? A person, let's say a person transgressed the command of bestiality, right? We'll get there one day. Kill the animal, right? Kill the animal. I gotta say, the animal didn't do anything wrong, right? The animal was, pre-programmed, right? So it was acted on against its will. Very good. So why does the animal die? Why does the animal die? Because that animal's around, even if the person was killed, right? Person who committed bestiality, death penalty. So even if he's killed, what do I have? If you leave the animal alive, people say, oh, look, that's, Reuben's animal that he did the jitterbug with, still running around, right? It's kind of embarrassment, even if the person's dead, even if they got death penalty, right? Okay, but you don't leave the animal alive, right? There's certain cases where, if the animal killed, let's say a person had an animal that caused damage. Now, normally we say an animal causes damage doesn't necessarily deserve death penalty. If, let's say, an animal 3 times gored somebody or gored different people, different animals, right? Let's say it's the responsibility of the owner to make sure the animal doesn't do that. So if that's the case, there's going to be different punishments here. If the animal only gored once, certain punishment. If the animal gored 3 times, different punishment. Why? Because that's called the goring animal. What about the owner? Doesn't the owner have to watch over the animal? Sure. Now you get a dangerous animal, right? The owner's got to be careful with this animal. So different punishments depending on what the animal did. Very good. So he said sometimes the animal deserves death penalty for different reasons, but death penalty comes where? Beis Din of 23, right? You need a Beis Din of 23 to give death penalty. Now says, so the Rochaim Makadosh over here, just like we have by a person, right? That there's judgment on him. So too by an animal also can be judgment on the animal, depending on what it did. Even though you tell me the animal doesn't have free will, right? So if an animal gores, it's not his fault. It's what animals do, right? They can cause damage, but they don't always cause damage. You have to guard your animal. You have to take care of your animal. You can't allow it to graze in other people's fields. You got to muzzle your animal, right? For that, if you're going to go into someone else's field, make sure it doesn't eat from anyone else, right? Something that doesn't belong to them. But even so, with an animal itself, you're going to say, hey, but it doesn't have free will, but the owner has to guard it. Now, can certain animals be more wild than others? Yes. That for sure can happen. But the onus is on the owner. The owner to guard it. Okay. Now, it could be an extremely wild animal. So gores the second time. Gores the third time. Right? Now, once it gores the third time, gores, right? It causes damage a third time over here. Then we say this is a troublesome animal. This is what we call a shur hamuad. Muad means all the time it's going to gore. This is what it does. The owner still has to protect other people from it, okay? Right? So, but only after 3 times. If it did it once, okay, certain damage. Second time, certain damage. Third time already is more severe. Right? Now we understand that this animal is, bad egg, so to speak. Right? It's more wild, needs more guarding or whatever. But a human, interesting enough. See, there can be, let's say better. By animals, you can have an animal that's a top, it's easygoing, so to speak, not going to cause damage. You can have animals that we call a short, like a muat, that all the time it causes damage. So it depends on the animal. It depends how much you guard it, whatever, but it depends on the nature of the animal. So if the nature is more wild, so you need to guard it better. And what happens? The animal got up, you did all the guarding. Okay, it's another issue, right? The fact is, you did everything you could, right? You're still going to be liable to a certain extent, but you did everything you can. That's an onus, right? You did everything practically you could. If you didn't, then you're negligent. You gave minimal amount, of protection. You didn't, seal up the corral so well. Whatever it was that a person might be, negligent in, right? That's a different issue. But if you know, what the normal requirement is to keep an animal at bay, and you don't do that, you're liable. You're 100% liable. Now, if the animal got out of that, you did everything in your power, and the animal got out of it, that's an onus. Now, onus doesn't necessarily mean you're totally exempt over here. Again, it's gonna be depend over here. But a human, that's what I want to bring out here. A human is different because we say a human always causes damage. Right? A human always causes damage. Now, then he's saying, people should be more careful in different things, sure. But a person normally causes damage. You have to be careful. Nothing all the time. But if a human causes damage, unless it is, totally against their control, right? In other words, they're under total 100% onus. Onus means they're not in control. Now, onus doesn't necessarily mean you're 100% exempt. But still, that's still a level of negligence. Why? You should be more careful. But man in general causes damage. That's what they do. So the difference between a man and an animal, right? Seemingly what the punishment is going to be. Because we say, the Gemara says, Adam muad lo'ilom. A person always causes damage. That's the nature of a person. Now, sometimes more, sometimes less. Doesn't really matter, but the point is, man causes damage. So, it comes on the Orach Chaim HaKadosh over here, and he says, the animal itself, what's the purpose of an animal? So you see, that animal didn't do anything wrong, but God says you got to sacrifice, right? Different times you got to sacrifice animals, but you're allowed to eat animals. Torah allows us to eat animals, and the Ramban already said, all the vegans are going to be very happy because the Ramban already said what would be, God didn't allow us to eat animals at the beginning. We're all vegetarian, very good, right? We're all vegetarian. So if we're all vegetarian, why did God allow us to eat meat? Because God saw we need to eat meat. We wanted meat. They allowed us to eat meat. People say about the highest level is to be a vegan. Now, let's keep in mind, we mentioned this before, a vegan, let's say someone doesn't like meat, okay? People, it's too heavy, makes them tired, whatever. But if someone were to say, and this is really the point, if someone would say, I'm not eating meat because it's cruel to kill animals, right? That's heresy. Everyone says they don't like to eat meat, okay. Not everyone likes to eat meat. I ain't simcha ela basar v'yayin. No greater joy throwing on a festival than eating meat or drinking wine. Now, some people don't like to drink wine. Some people don't like to eat meat. But the Gemara says that's what we should do, right? Even a little bit, right? In order to join the festival. Now, person says, "What, I have to eat it if I don't like it? It's repulsive to me." No, right? But why is it repulsive? It can only be repulsive because you don't like the texture of it. It makes you, it's too heavy, makes you feel sleepy, whatever it is. Very good. But if a person would say, I'm not going to eat it because it's cruel to kill animals, that's heresy. So different levels of vegans, right? Without getting into that. But God also, people got to say, see, at the beginning of time, God said can't eat meat. Very good. But God saw the nature of man. And that we're going to want to eat meat. So God allowed us to eat meat, but, got to tell us what we're allowed to do. How allowed to kill animals. What animals we're allowed to eat. Right? The Torah, goes in detail about. But he says Orach Chaim HaKadosh over here, God didn't allow the killing of animals for meat. What did he allow it for? Why do you allow the killing of animals? Sorry. Why do you allow the killing of animals over here? For the sake of the meat. He allowed it for the sake of the meat. Because the desire of a person is to eat meat. God saw that. He understood that. Now, someone's going to ask me, but at the beginning of time, what? God didn't see that? God didn't understand? God forbid that man's going to want to desire meat? No. God understood that also. Right? Pretty clear. God understood that also. If he thought, we'll see where it goes. I'll put it out there in the world. Right? They want to eat meat. I'll allow them to eat meat. So he says the Or Chaim HaKadosh over here, what was the purpose of allowing us to kill animals? For the sake of their meat. Not for the sake of blood. Blood's a different issue. What is blood used for? Right? What is blood used for? Atonement. Right? That's what it's for. It's there to atone. And we said before, the Ramban brought it down. The Rabbeinu B'chai we're going to see. I don't know if we're going to see today. But the Rabbeinu B'chai echoes a similar thing that the Ramban says that has an effect. You're eating the soul of the animal. It's going to have an effect. You're going to, it's going to have a negative effect for a Jew, not for a non-Jew. Right? That wouldn't apply to a non-Jew. It doesn't have an effect. Right? It shouldn't have an effect. Right? But still, I talking about non-kosher meat. But you're eating the soul. That's what Ramban said. So therefore what? Therefore, where does the blood go? As the Or Chaim HaKadosh over here says, on the Mizbeach. Goes on the altar. That's what it's supposed to be used for. So what are you supposed to eat? Not the blood. You're allowed to kill the animal for the sake of the meat, but not for the sake of the blood. That's what he says, because God understood that we have a nature to eat meat. We have a nature to eat meat. And that's what the Or Chaim HaKadosh here says. It says in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 12, verse 20, because the desire of our soul is to eat meat. So he allowed us to eat meat. But again, even if he allowed us to eat meat, he didn't allow us to eat blood. Blood is a different issue. Blood is something we're not allowed. So we gave different reasons. Right? We saw the Ramban. We saw we mentioned a few weeks ago by the Or Chaim HaKadosh, right? What he brought down is a different issue. Right? A little bit different. The meat you're allowed to eat. What about all the vegans? Very good. But God allowed us to eat meat. God saw we desire to eat meat. Very good. So if we have a desire to eat meat, we have to know how to eat it. Right? What's permissible, what's not permissible. Right? But the whole point is the meat itself is what? By itself, not the blood. You're not allowed to eat the blood. Because God saw we have a desire to eat meat. Very good. Right? And what is the blood going to be used for? Atonement. Right? As we said before. So explains the Or Chaim HaKadosh over here. Take a couple questions. Somebody asks, let's see. Somebody asks, what if someone says got into an animal pen without the owner knowing and they got caught? So this is the question. This is the question gets asked a number of times. It's a question that gets asked in the Gemara. What happens? You trespass. You're not allowed. You walk into someone's property. Right? You walk into someone's property, unbeknownst to the owner of the property. Unbeknownst, you walk into their property, not according to the law. Right? You're not allowed to walk in the property. Right? Let's say. It's private property. So private property means you can't go in. Okay. Now, if an animal walked in, we'll make it easy. If an animal came in and started eating from the fruits or whatever's in that, in that area, then they have to pay. The owner has to pay. The owner has to pay. You evaluate what he ate. The owner has to pay. We'll take it one step further. What happens? The animal goes in, breaks the fence, breaks something in the other owner's property. He's liable. He's liable. Now we'll get into a sticky situation. What happens? The animal comes in. The animal goes in. Yeah, without permission, obviously, of the owner. The animal gets injured. I don't know. Let's say there's a bucket on the ground. Something. Animal didn't see it. Yeah, animal doesn't see it and falls, breaks its leg, gets injured. Who's liable? Right? Now, someone will say the owner's liable. Why the owner be liable? Because someone walks in, they trip over something there. You should say the owner should be liable. Should have been careful. People can trip. Animals could trip. If they're not careful. Could run right into it. What would be the other side of the argument? What are you doing in my bike? What are you doing in my field? The owner can say, you're in my field. I didn't tell you to be in my field. For the fact you're in my field, shalokadin, right? Not according to Jewish law, right? Against the law, let's say. You're in my field against the law. So you should be, so who cares you got injured? You weren't allowed to be there. Is that considered, let's say, like someone put a pit in the middle of a thoroughfare, busy thoroughfare. Animal falls in, a person falls in. They know there's a pit there. They didn't cover it so well. Person falls in, gets injured. Yeah. So whoever put it there has to cover it. If they didn't cover it properly, liable. Right? Whoever put it there. Person walking down the street, we gave an example. On a sidewalk, there's a crack in the sidewalk, person falls, breaks their arm. Yeah, maybe there's a crack in the sidewalk because, I don't know, rain damage, other damage, whatever it may be. Who's liable? City should be liable. Let's say you got roads need to be fixed. Here's a good example. It probably happen in a lot of places. You got a road, it's got a lot of potholes. Your good hard-earned money, goes to taxes. They don't fix potholes. I don't know. They need to fix potholes. Person drives by, punctured tire. And let's say you got a bunch of these. Where you live around the city. Well, let's say God forbid it caused an accident, even better. Caused an accident. So if it caused an accident, person got in the accident, couldn't they sue the city? Why can't they sue the city? It's a dangerous thing they put out there. It's like putting a pit in the middle of the public thoroughfare. Someone's going to fall in it. Someone's going to get damaged by it. Now, if you did it to yourself, that's a different issue. That's a different issue. You're walking down the street, you slipped. That's the city's fault? Not the city's fault. You slipped. Person got an equilibrium problem. They're trouble walking. They slip on the street. They slip on the sidewalk. Why'd they slip? Because they slipped. It had nothing to do with it. There was rain. The road was slick. So to speak, they always warn drivers here after the first rain, to be careful, be extra careful because, the rain doesn't absorb so well in the ground. So it can be more slippery the first time it rains. After it rains a bunch of times, you don't really have that issue. It seeps in. Right? But the first time they'll say you got to be careful because you could skid. Right? They shouldn't drive so fast. You should be careful. Okay, now what would happen? Someone goes on a road and skidded. Cause damage to somebody. Or whatever. They gotta say, well, I'm gonna sue the government, I'm gonna sue the country, whatever, because of the bad road. They warned you. Let's say a person was driving too fast, they skidded. After first rain. Don't people know? After first rain, you got to be careful. They make announcements all the time about it. Usually when there's, rain's coming, be careful on the road. Only by the first rain. They don't normally say by other rains. Imagine if there was snow here, people don't have to drive in rain. Never mentioning snow. I mean, I remember like in torrential downpours, people driving like, it's sunny. Like it's crazy. But I don't want to digress here. So could a person sue them? Could they sue the municipality? Could they sue the city because of slick roads? Why could they sue them? There's a general warning, right? The warning is be extra careful on the roads after a first rain because the roads are slick. And the person skidded. They were warned. Should be driving so fast anyway in the rain. But let's say, can't sue them for that. But if there's a major pothole or other things that really the city is responsible to fix, and, a car skids, or even better, I mean, it shouldn't happen to anyone, even better, gets a punctured tire from it. Or a person went, too fast, destroyed shock absorbers. Probably less of an issue in the long run, but punctured tire, that could be dangerous. Tire pops. That's probably not so common, right? A person could skid. I mean, other things can happen. Whatever can happen. Now, if that would be the case, and you were driving, let's say, you weren't driving fast, you weren't negligent, and that just destroyed the underside of your car or tires or whatever, that'd be a good axe to grind. People sue for all kinds of things. So if there's a crooked, sidewalk for whatever reason, and a person tripped, person goes into a store. There's a short ledge to walk down or to walk up. They don't put a sign up, and a person falls. Couldn't they sue them? Could. It's negligence. 100% is negligence. Right? We're not talking about suing for no reason. You got hurt. Person tripped. The older the person, probably the more they could get because more damage. Right? Much older people, what's their biggest fear usually? Is falling. Because, you're much older, bones are not as strong, you break major bones. Major bones. There's stories of people who are, relatively good health, fell. That's it. Right? Depends how you fall. Okay. There are cases like this. So, a store is going to be extra careful. If there's a ledge, a little bit of a ledge to walk on or a little bit of an instep, you got to put up a sign. And if a person fell, the store can't say, well, it's your own fault. You should have looked. Well, that's true. Person should have looked. But what can we easily say? You don't put up a sign. How did I know there was a step there? How should I have known there was a step there? They could argue. You should have looked. You should have looked. Don't be a fool. When you walk, look where you're walking. People don't necessarily pay attention, right? But if it's something you wouldn't have noticed, something that was more hidden, a person can sue for a lot. Probably. They're negligent. They should have put up the sign saying, do not, be careful. There's an incline. There's a step here. Right? I just made most people know I just made a bar mitzvah with my youngest son on Shabbos. So going up to the, to read the Torah, there's a step. Right? It's not really a step, but you have to put your foot up in order to go up on the beam. Right? So my father-in-law should be well. Not a youngster. Just had a big birthday or is having a big birthday soon. And, as he's walking, I said, there's a step. Make sure you see the step. It's like, no, I already saw it. Right? Now, they're not going to put up a sign. It's pretty obvious. Right? Something that's obvious, let's make it easy. If it's something that you could have seen and you should have seen and you didn't, you're liable. It's your own fault. You're going to say, I fell flat in my face. injured their back, injured their leg, injured their hand. They should have been more careful, right? Coppin 614th commandment. Don't be stupid. You should have looked. And you didn't look. Right? Something obvious. If it's something not obvious, right? If it's something you wouldn't have known to look, then that place is going to be liable. Now, what if it's something obvious you could have looked, but then you slipped because there was something on the step or something like that? Then you have a case. That shouldn't have been there. You saw it was wet. Should have been more careful, maybe. But it was something not necessarily in your control. They should be liable. Right? These get more complicated. Yeah. The laws of damages, as I mentioned many times, the laws of damage is the closest thing that we understand in wisdom. The closest thing to our own understanding. I remember having a difficult time learning something. That's one of my rabbis about it. And I said, why is this so hard? Why is it so hard to get the case and what they're talking about and different things? If this is the closest thing to our own understanding. And the answer was, you're forgetting one major thing. The one major thing you're forgetting is that this is a God-written book. So it's not the way we necessarily think. Even if it's something that we would understand. Business, damages, things we'd understand. So now back to the question. That was just, I guess, a little bit way of introduction. What if someone got into an owner's pen, right? They dropped something there. They left something behind, whatever it may be. Yeah, and without they sneak in, the owner doesn't know about it. Yeah, and they get gored. Now, the question's going to be, if this animal is just running about, then it's a person's fault. They were trespassing. Now, we're not talking about where the animal's locked up and the animal gets out and the animal does something. If the animal is moving around and a person walks in there, someone told me something, wasn't so recent. Someone had mentioned that somebody jumped in. Where were they? They were at a zoo. I think they were at a zoo, and they jumped in. I think were there polar bears there? I forget what animal it was. It was it might have been, was it bears there? I forget. It was an animal you don't want to go in their pen, right? Unless you have like a gun or something, right? You definitely, whatever's a dangerous animal, right? Let's say they went in there for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe they want to get more views on Instagram. I don't know, whatever reason. Now, what would happen? They go in there and they get mauled. They got mauled by this animal. Let's say they're gonna sue, right? The family's gonna sue the zoo. You jumped over the fence. However you got in, doesn't really matter. You jumped over the fence, got in for whatever reason, and that's a consequence. You can't sue them. You yourself, transgress Kaufman 615 commandment. Don't be a moron. Who does you go in a lion's den? Right? I just wanted to pet the leopard. What are you, an idiot? They run faster than you. They get on you. You're finished. They rip you to shreds. Yeah. Some people do crazy things. Crazy things. Yeah. Can you sue the zoo for that? No. Can't sue them. But what's going to happen to that animal if they, let's say they didn't kill the person. They injured the person. Yeah. They're going to put that animal to sleep. Most likely. Because they're a dangerous animal. But who said, so then there's the whole question, they have a right to do that. What, I'm not going to say it's cruel to animals, per se, but say it's a dangerous animal you're going to put to sleep. Right? But it is an interesting theoretical question. Right? The reason being is that the person himself went in against the law. You're not allowed to jump into these places. Makes sense. So what did the animal do wrong? Oh, the Peter pet activists, whatever you call them, they could be jumping up and down screaming. Can't put that animal. Why should you put that animal down? Because some idiot went in. People know how to work with them, know how to work with them. It doesn't mean they don't get mauled either. Sometimes you hear that stories like that also. You get, zookeepers, whatever, supposed to be experts in dealing with animals. They can get mauled by animals. It happens. I'm not saying it's frequent. It can happen. It definitely can happen. So, if a person went in and that animal mauls them, even if they don't kill them, you can't sue them for that. You jumped in, right? So here, what would happen? Even if it's a goring animal, even if it's gored more than 3 times, it's in its own pen. And you went in there. Person went in there, I don't know, they dropped their phone. They said, oh, I have to get it. My phone's worth, a lot more than my life, I guess. I'm going to go in there and get my phone. And all of a sudden, the animal looks at you. You look at him, and he comes running, charging. You're going to say, whatever happened to the person. Again, let's say they got injured. Not seriously injured, but let's say they got injured. But they saved their phone. They got their phone, but they got injured. Okay. Yeah, think about it. Can they sue them? Would they be able to sue them for that? They can't sue them for that. They went in illegally. It's a goring animal. Yeah, that's only when the animal is coming after you when it's free. Right? But in the case you went there, if you went there, it's like you take your life in your own hands. Right? So again, we'll make it clear. Person went into someone else's property without permission. They caused damage. They got to pay. Oh, what if they went in and they tripped on a skateboard? No skateboards anymore. Hoverboard, right? Got hoverboards now, right? Person tripped on a hoverboard, went flying, did a somersault, landed on their back. Now they got back problems, or they broke their leg or something like that. Are they liable? What's the owner going to say? The owner's going to say, what in the world were you doing in my yard? You don't have any right to go in my yard. You got injured. Not my problem. Right? I keep the yard any way I want. Right? I'm just taking a picture of what my yard looked like after Shabbos. I had nine grandkids here. It looked like an absolute disaster. So someone would have come in, illegally, and they would have tripped on something. I mean, we cleaned up after Shabbos. Let's say it wasn't totally cleaned up. They tripped on a rollerblade or something, went splat. Broke their arm, broke their hand, something like that. They're like, I'm going to sue you. And I have a right to sue you because I tripped on this rollerblade. Excuse me, what were you doing on my property? Did you have any right to be in my property? Yes or no? No. So I'll keep the property any way I want. That's not public property. It's private. If I would have kept it outside, like put it on the sidewalk and someone tripped on it, good. I mean, not so good, right? So that's a different issue. That's being negligent. I get it. That's being negligent. So therefore, a person's negligent, you're liable. Why? Because that's where you put it. You put it in a place where people could trip over it. But if you come into my property or someone else's property and you fall on something, it says, why should you be liable? Why should the other person be liable? They have a very good claim. They have a tremendous claim. Their claim is, what the heck were you doing in my property? Again, the person, fell there by accident. I don't know. However they got there, let's say it was under onus, something was against their will. They didn't plan for this, whatever it may be. Very good. But if a person walked in willingly for whatever reason, they don't have a right to be there. They have no right whatsoever to be there. And if that is the case, then you got no claim. Oh, someone's going to say, right? Like this question about the animal's a goring animal, right? So what's the owner going to say? You're my property. You have no right to be my property. You had no right to be my property. You had no right. You had no right to be my property. Since you had no right to be my property, if the animal damaged you, it's your fault. You weren't there. Sorry, you weren't supposed to be there. So therefore, be liable. Right? The owner would not be liable. Person who went in at his own risk. Saw their animal there, he knew what was there. Went at his own risk, even if he didn't know. Even if he didn't know the person had animals. And he walked in looking for whatever he's looking for. And the animal came out and gored him. What's the owner going to say? The owner's going to say, what in the world are you doing on my property? You had no right. You had zero right to be in my property. Finished. It's a goring animal, so what? Even if it wasn't a goring animal, right? It's better. I would say it's better if it's not a goring animal, but let's say it did. Let's say it caused him damage. Give another example, right? What happens? Someone, a little bit different case. Someone comes into a person's property at night. Yeah, a thief comes into a person's property at night, late at night. The owner's there. Now, the owner hears someone, looking for things or whatever. And the one who's there understands the owner could come up against him. So therefore, if the owner kills the person, because he's trespassing, if he kills the person, is he liable? So they have to warn him. Doesn't have to warn him, right? The only case where he wouldn't be allowed to kill him if it was like someone like his son, right? Then a person's not going to kill their son in general, right? Or daughter or whatever, right? Somebody like that. But in general, that person knows he forfeited his life. The owner could kill him straight away. There's no question why, because very simple rationale. Because the owner knows, the thief knows the owner's going to come up against him, and he's going to try and kill him. So he knows that the owner's going to try and kill him. The owner doesn't have to warn him. Does not have to warn him. He's got a death sentence on his head. Now, doesn't mean he has to kill him, but if he did kill him, totally exempt. 100% he's totally exempt. But there's a question. Let's say someone came in the middle of the night trying to steal your Ming vase. I don't know if someone's got a Ming vase or not. Try to steal something valuable, whatever it may be. Guy gets up. The thief is running out the door. Guy gets his shotgun. He's already out the door. Can he kill him? Can he kill him? If he's already in his house, he could kill him. He's got a death sentence. Why? Because he knows. We just said he knows you're going to come up against him, and he knows that he's going to try and go against him, go against the owner. Very good. So he knows he's got a death sentence. Doesn't mean you have to kill him. Doesn't mean it's a mitzvah to kill him. It just means that if he kills him, he's exempt. But what happens if he's running out the door? He's out the door. Their case only applies if he's in the house. If he's in the house, can you run after him? Can you run after him or not? So that we have a difference of opinion. One opinion is once he's out the door, he's out the door. You can't kill him. You can injure him, but you can't kill him. Other opinion is he's got a death sentence anyway. The death sentence is already on his head. Once the death sentence is on his head, doesn't matter if he's out the door. Right? Also, just make another caveat here. Let's say the thief himself taking out this Ming vase and breaks it. And then you catch him, right? You don't kill him, you catch him. Right? You're able to catch him. Is he liable? Is he liable over here? So normally we would say he's a dead man. And what's the general rule? Dead men don't pay because he's dead. Now, it doesn't mean you kill him. Doesn't mean you kill him. But he'd be exempt, right? Yeah, if he would kill him, he'd be exempt. For sure. But he doesn't have to kill him. Now, let's say he doesn't kill him. Even if he doesn't injure him, he's able to take him down, doesn't have to kill him. Very good. But now he caused damage. So then he should be liable. He still should be liable, even though Rui's got death sentence, but he didn't die. Right? Again, there's no mitzvah to kill him in this instance. Right? There's no mitzvah over here. So the question, is, if he's already got a death sentence, do we say he's already dead? Do we look at him as being dead or not? Right? We'll throw out another example. Another example, not so similar, but throw out another example. Somebody, let's say, they have a terminal disease. It means they have something where they're going to die within 12 months. What we call a trait. Same thing by an animal, right? If you see an animal that's got a hole in its lungs, hole in its brain or whatever, it's not going to live for 12 months, let's say. Right? About 18 signs. 18 signs, whatever they may be. So for an animal that's not going to live, we call it a trait. So we say the same thing by a person. Now, let's say you killed somebody, God forbid. You killed somebody that was already going to die anyway. And another interesting question. In other words, person's already considered dead. Why? Because you know he's going to die. All right, let's say there's no heroics over here, no miracles. This person's going to die within a year. Could be within 2 months, could be within 6 months. For sure, a year he's never going to last. Forget about what the medical establishment says, whether he will die or he won't die. We're not even going to get into that. But let's say we know for sure. There's nothing to talk about. Everybody agrees. All the doctors agree. There's no question. This person's going to die within a year. And then you kill them. Person killed them. Not by accident. By accident's a different thing. Person killed him willingly. Is he liable? Right? What are the sides of the argument? One side of the argument is he killed him. He's liable. What do I care if he's going to die in 12 months or not? He's liable. He killed him. It's murder. Very good. The other side of the argument would say he's already dead. He's already dead. If he's already dead, I didn't kill anyone. He's already dead. He's just lacking burial. Take it one step further. Well, on this topic, someone goes into hospice to die, right? It's normally a person goes to hospice to die. And you starve them to death. That's murder. But you're going to tell him he's going to die anyway. Okay. You can't starve them to death. If someone has cancer, God forbid, what's secondary cause of cancer? Pneumonia. Why does someone die of pneumonia? Because they don't have strength, right? Their bodies are weak. They don't have strength to fight it. Very good. Now, is that murder? Even if they give them basic amount of nutrients to live? No. Right? If you starve them to death, that's something else. If you give them basic nutrients to live, but the body's much weaker. The body 100% is much weaker. Very good. But that's not direct. If a person was going to die, and this is the case I know about, right? A person was going to die anyway, let's say within 10 hours. Person has a pacemaker, they cut off the pacemaker, he died in 2 hours. Can't hasten someone's death. That's murder. Right? So euthanasia is also murder. Not mercy, it's murder. Doesn't matter if the person's suffering or not. They have a right to kill them. Still human life. Everyone is considered B'Tselem Elokim. Everyone's considered, in God's image, right? Exactly whatever that means. But, everyone's created God's image. So who says you're allowed to take someone's life? Shorten their life. We don't want to see them suffer. It's not your call. It's sad to see. I agree. But it's not a person's call. What the value of life is. Not the doctor's call either. How do you define, according to them, quality of life? Right? Someone told me a number of years ago, they say, a person had a stroke. No, they know it shouldn't happen to any of us. Person had a stroke. What happened? Something snapped this person's brain. Didn't, give up the will to live, basically. But somebody said, this person can't even play Sudoku or do crossword puzzle. Like, that's the value of life. That's it. No quality of life. So what did the person do? Basically didn't eat, right? Basically starved themselves. They didn't want to live. They died. They went to hospice and died. It's their choice. People make all kinds of choices, right? But, quality of life is called you can't play Sudoku. Can't do crossword puzzles? Like, seriously? That's what life is. Who determines quality of life? God does. Let's make that very clear. That God is the one who decides what life is and what isn't. Doctors got a lot of power today. Too much power. Trying to convince people to die when they don't really have to. Story of somebody that mother was very sick. And basically they're trying to convince his mother to die. This person's mother to die. Not going to get any better. No quality of life. They brought in all these palliative care people and this and that. And her own doctor said, get your mother out of the hospital. They're going to kill her. They are going to kill her. And she lived another 10 years. They got her out. She lived another 10 years. Healthy years. Who calls the shots here? Right? It's a scary thing. It's a very, very scary thing. Be able to say, why should we keep you alive? So to speak, with other people, you're taking up a bed. It's cost money. You must just go out to pasture willingly. You're not going to live anyway. You're not going to have quality of life like they determine it. Yeah. You're not going to have quality of life anyway. So that's it. You should go into palliative care and die. That's what they're telling them. Yeah. So this person said on her mother, they got another doctor said, get your mother out of there. They are for sure going to kill her. They'll just water her down and kill her. So they got her out. They changed hospitals. It wasn't so easy to do. They changed hospitals. Got out of the hospital months later, and that was it. They lived 10 years. 10 more quality years. So who defines? Doing that, okay, it's not necessarily murder because it's not direct. It's not good. It's not good either way. You won't get accused of murder in this world. In this world, no. Right? Because again, it's indirect. But cancer is a good example. Because someone, secondary cause of cancer is pneumonia. Now, the body is so weak, even if they give you nutrients and this and that, barely to stay alive, okay, but the body's so weak you can't fight it. But that's not murder. It's not direct. Unless they would refuse, the person food. If they refuse, they wouldn't give them food, they starve them to death. That's murder. That 100% is murder. Nothing to talk about. Yeah, that's what I would answer for that. Why was Bilam Harosha so moronic? Oh, why was he so moronic? It's cursed Jewish people. Yeah, and God told him it was a blessed nation. Now, Bilam wasn't a fool, right? Right? Why wasn't better to listen to Balak? Okay. And how can someone who received prophecy even think of leading people towards licentiousness? Oh, so that'll answer first. I got a video on Parshas Balak on my YouTube channel, if you're on Orthodox version in Judaism, that said over there in one of the videos that I think it's called prophecy. What is it? Prophecy doesn't lead to righteousness, or something like that. Now, Bilam. Now, the claim of the nations is if you would have given us a prophet like Moses, we'd be different, right? We would even be as great as the Jewish people. Now, what could their complaint be? We have a prophet. Oh, but you gave us Bilam. You gave us Bilam. It's no good for nothing, whatever. Yeah, you gave us him. They can also have the same complaint. Bilam was able to figure out the split second that God gets angry. He wasn't as stupid as you think he was. And why he did what he did to his donkey, that's a whole nother issue, right? But I'll ask a very simple question, in order to answer the question. Bilam is bent on cursing the Jewish people. All right, and God changes words and all these things. Why doesn't now Bilam and Balak, kind of two peas in a pod here, they don't love each other by any stretch. Midian and Moab, they fought a lot. They weren't best buddies. The nations were not close, but they had a common enemy, right? When you have a common enemy, even if you don't like the other person, you join up together, usually, right? Within reason. So they want to join together to try and destroy Jewish people. Very good, or not so good. What happened over here? Why did Bilam, instead of cursing the Jewish people, which God said he can't do, you're not going to be allowed to do, right? Why would he think to do it? It's a good question. Well, let's ask a little bit different. Why did Bilam not bless Balak? Opposite end of the question. You see that he can't curse the Jewish people. He still does it. We'll get to that. But why? Let's ask a little bit different. Why doesn't he give him the blessing to Balak? If he's got this power of the mouth, the power to bless or to curse, forget about the Jewish people. Forget about they're not going to listen and that they're different and all that. And God said you can't touch them, with your mouth. I'm not going to allow you to because the power of the mouth is so strong. Very good. But why didn't he bless Balak? Like, they didn't really like Balak so much, so why should he bless him? That's not the case here. He could have blessed him. he could have had a positive effect on Balak that maybe could have overturned the Jewish people. Why didn't he do that? Commentaries say an amazing thing is he hated the Jewish people so much and what they represented. It was worth it to still try and curse them, even if God would have said, you're never going to do it, and I'll change your words, and it'll never happen. It's not rational. A person can have prophecy and still not be rational, in other ways. But you see over here that it would have made much more sense for him to bless Balak. But he said, I'm not going to do that. God's going to say, you won't be able to curse them. My people are blessed and all this and all that. And he knew that at a very high level. His hatred was so intense. When a person's hatred for someone else is so intense, you don't see reality. It would have made much more sense for him to bless the Jewish people. But he can say, but he was a prophet. He had a level of prophecy, right? There's the whole question how his level of prophecy was just as great as Moses. It's a question. You can say, but you're so immoral and this and that. You're right. Right? It's a different level of prophecy. But without going into all that. But he had a very high level here. Because the Gemara says he could have figured out that split second when God got angry. Who can do that? Who can do that? Now, one thing you see for sure, right? One thing, he had prophecy. 100%. No one disagrees that he had prophecy. He had prophecy. Now, a person has to be in a certain level for prophecy. It took years, months, years, for a Jewish person to be a prophet. They had to work on themselves tremendously. And if God came to them, it could be once a week, once a month, once every 5 years. God would speak to them, but you had to train. Right? The Ramchal says in Derech Hashem, you had to work to be a prophet. So he wasn't a dummy here. Right? There's a different level of prophecy here, but he's no dummy. But think about it. If a person would have a gilui, that God would come to them, right? A revelation. God would come to them and say, do this, do that. A real gilui, a real gilui. No joking around. A real gilui. That God comes to them. And he knows it's prophecy. Don't you think person might change their ways because God actually spoke to them? Or he understood it was from God. Again, forget how you do whatever. We're talking about real prophecy. God, that person understands God speaking to them either, right? Let's say through an intermediary, through a dream, whatever it is. They understand. When a person had prophecy, they understood it was prophecy. Right? All prophets outside of Moses, they were, some sort of trance, usually asleep when this prophecy came. But they know they're having prophecy. Very good. Now, if they know they're having prophecy, they know God's speaking to them, and God wants to give them a message to give out. How could they have bad character? How could they do other things wrong? Right? It's hard to imagine. You expect them to be perfect angels. You had to be on a very high level to be a prophet. It took a lot of training. There were prophet schools. It took a lot of training, right, to get to where they need to get to. Very good. Took a lot of work. Now let's get to Bilam. I'll tell one other story. That Achav, the evil king, God comes to him. And he understands it's God coming to him, the Gemara says. God comes to him and asks him a question. Are you interested in walking in Gan Eden in paradise with me and Ben Yishai? Ben Yishai, the son of Jesse, i.e. King David. He wants Achav to repent. He wants him to do tshuva. So he says, we're going to take a walk, whatever that means. We're going to stroll, Kavayachol, we're going to stroll in paradise. Me, you, and Ben Yishai. Right? Me, you, and the son of Jesse. Very good, King David. So what does Achav say? This is something direct. He knows it's God speaking to him. Very good. So Achav said, anybody in their right mind would have said, I'm in, let's go. Right? I'm in. Get to walk with you, God, King of the world, and King David. I'm in. What does Achav say? Achav asks the immemorial question, and he says, "Who goes first? You know, who goes first? You're going with King David and God Himself." So God answers, King David goes first. He's like, "Nope, not interested." You're not interested? Are you an absolute idiot? You're not. You're going to stroll with one of the greatest people created in the history of man, and God Himself. And God Himself. And that's what you choose? That's what you choose? Who goes first and you're not interested? How can that be? Direct revelation. Because he was rotten to the core. Right? Came to Rav Ashi in a dream, and started asking him questions that he couldn't answer. So I asked him, it's like, so how did you go after idolatry? How in the world did you go after idolatry if you're 10 times more brilliant than I'll ever be? So he said, if you would have been in my generation, you would have ran after idolatry after its coattail. That's how powerful it was. But think about it. Someone has a revelation, clear-cut revelation. This is God Himself coming to the person. How can the person not change? How can the person not repent on the spot? So I'll tell you what the Brisker Rav says. Rav Yisrael Zev Soul of Ancient blessed memory, son of Rav Chaim Brisker, the Torah giants, the last generation. According to everybody, a blessed memory. And someone from America came and said, there's so many, Jews in America don't know anything about Judaism. If God would do more open miracles, they'd be closer to God. They'd be, they'd want to keep Torah mitzvahs. So the Brisker Rav said, you're making a big mistake. He said, why did he say he's making a big mistake? Very simple. He said, because in order for a person, even if they saw a miracle, let's say, even it's clear-cut miracle, the person has to be a vessel to be able to see it. If you're not a vessel, you're holding nowhere in the world. The most important question you may ever ask is, if I put ketchup or mustard on my hot dog, or relish, because someone's going to tell me that, or relish, very good. That's what you're holding in the world. God can do an open miracle. You can try and figure it out on your watch. Like someone said, 39 Scud missiles, they don't hit anything. They only hit open areas. Well, I can figure that out. It's like 1 in a billion. Well, it could happen, right? Put your button on the calculator. Yeah, it could happen. Well, tell me, a missile from, 10 miles away, doesn't hit anything, in major cities. Okay, I'll give you that. Want to tell me 2 don't hit anything. Right, I'm in a generous mood. Then you tell me 5, maybe. You want to tell me 39? I'd bet all the money I don't have that'll never happen. One of them has to hit something. A house, a car, has hit something. I mean, this was not a big place. Only the size of the state of New Jersey. Very small. So it's 1 of 2 things, as we always say. It's either you got the stupidest people shooting the missiles. Could be. That is definitely a possibility. Or God's in charge, because it doesn't make sense otherwise. Totally doesn't make sense. If God wants, someone to get hit, they'll get hit. Last week, there are all these missiles shot up north, but all of them hit empty areas. I mean, there were some fires or whatever. 2 people got killed in their car. Can't even imagine that. Imagine, a person in their car, all of a sudden they see a missile coming straight at them. Nowhere to go. Yeah. Tragic. But it's just interesting, all the other, missiles, and they're not very far, they hit all open areas. Okay, causing other damage. causing fires and different things. Okay. Yeah. But I think all of them, I think some of them were shot down. The others hit open areas, caused some damage with fires. But this one hit somebody. I mean, I'm not laughing here. I mean, it hit their car. That was it. Get hit by a missile, it's over. Right? Should be over. Anyway. But a missile, Ramosha Schneider or Sturmuk's Rebbe, would always say every missile has the point of direction where it's going to hit. Every missile has its address. That's what he said. Every missile has its address. Now, you can have a lot of missiles that don't hit anything, okay. But there are missiles that could hit houses, could hit buildings, could hit all kinds of things. Yeah, so says the Brisker Rov, you have to be a vessel. You have to be a vessel in order to see that's coming from God. If not, you can make up 100,000 different excuses why that's not the case. It was mirrors, it was this, you got lucky, the wind blew it out. Who knows? You can make up all kinds of things. But to say it's an open miracle, or to say it's a miracle, you got to be on a level to be able to do that. Right? Says the Brisker Rov, you got to be a vessel. You got to be a vessel. If you're not a vessel, it goes nowhere. You show all the miracles you want, right? They say the Vilna Gaon said that it can take somebody. Right? It's talking about Aristotle. So Aristotle wasn't a believer, right? Definitely different type of God than we believe in, no question. So he said that I could bring. He said if I would have Aristotle here right in front of me, I could bring all the heavenly hosts, all the heavenly bodies I could bring in this room, according to Kabbalah. Yeah. And he was he was the person who could have done it. And he said, if I would have done that and he was sitting right here, he still wouldn't change. It wouldn't change it. He'd be trying to figure out how I did it and this and that. How do I know, says the Vilna Gaon? Because he lived in the same time and he saw a Shmuel HaKatan. He saw great rabbis, and he wasn't fazed by who they were and what they did. He was not going to be fazed by them and by what they did. Even if I brought the whole heavenly host in this room and he was here, he still wouldn't be fazed. The same thing. Same exact thing. You got to be a vessel to see it. And if you're not a vessel to see it, you won't see it. You come up with 150,000 other reasons why it happened possible. Right? So open miracles don't do anything unless you see it. Two people can see the same thing. One person will say, oh, we got lucky. And you got the Patriot missiles knocking them out and other things knocking them out. Very good. Or you can say it's, it's God. It's one or the other. Right? But that in and of itself would need clarity. Why do two people see two different things? Because you have to want to see it. If you don't want to see it, you won't see it. Pretty clear. Right? You come up with all these excuses. Well, you got lucky, you got this, you got that. I mean, everything that happens in the land of Israel is miraculous. Right? No question. When God wants to make an example, he'll make an example. But time in, time out, what do we hear? All these sirens up north and down south and whatever, they don't hit anything. When they do hit something, it makes a big, it makes a big impression. Because most of the time it doesn't. So you say, oh, it's Patriot missiles. No, it's not just that. They don't knock all of them out. Maybe 70%, 60%. But they hit stuff. They hit open areas most of the time. That's not normal. If you're shooting very close, how can they not hit anything? 3,000 missiles on October 7th from down south. They didn't hit anything, as I remember. They didn't hit buildings. Well, all open areas. 3,000 at point blank range. A few miles away. It's unheard of. Again, you want to tell me, if they shot 100, right? You want to tell me like a few didn't hit something. Okay. Right? Or tell me 10%. Right? Maybe. You're saying 10 didn't hit anything. Okay. Right, maybe we'll up the ante, maybe say a little bit more. Okay. You want to tell me that they don't hit anything? Thousands don't hit anything? The last attack by Iran, they had no way to knock all of them out. They figure they knock out, maybe a third. And that they were saying that was also a stretch. They used two different systems together, never used them the first time. They use them together. Very good. What are the odds of that? People in the military, in the US said the odds of that is 0. That's not going to happen. You're not going to knock all of them out. Okay. You had these drones coming, so fine. You have like 2 hours, 3 hours before they actually get here, so you can try and knock them out before, as they get closer. Okay. These other missiles coming, you can't. How can you stop all of them? They're going all over the place. It's like playing asteroids, right? That's what it's like. Anyone remembers the game Asteroids? It's like playing asteroids. And you have like 10,000 in one shot going here, there, and you're in the middle. You're toast. You think go into hyperspace and you die. Okay. That's what it's like. The odds of that is 0. 0. People can say, no, it's the Patriots, and it's 0. However you want to slice it, right? There's no explanation. No rational explanation. Right? You want to tell me 40, 50 missiles, 40, 50 missiles go in, and one person gets hit directly. Right? Tragically, 2 people die. But everything else hits nothing. And if they hit open areas, they cause some fires. Okay. Right? That deal with the fires. No one got hurt from that. Still, they're not that far. You got very highly populated cities up there. Not did anything. The thing is that you got people in the government say, yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that. We're taking care of all this, taking care of all that. There's so many things that's so above nature. So above nature. That's what the pain is here. That's what the danger is. Like my Rebbe would say, if you acknowledge it as a miracle, and you say this is God doing it, even if you're an Orthodox Jew, you darn well better change what you do and what you say and how you act. Because if you say it's an open miracle, you don't change. What did God do it for? If secular Jews say it's a miracle, okay, they don't. I could hear an argument. They're saying whatever doesn't change them in any way. But if you're an Orthodox Jew and you're saying that doesn't change you. Doesn't get you to think differently. Doesn't get you to act differently. Anything. Then God can sit back and say, why'd I do it? What was the purpose of me doing it? I didn't get acknowledged for what I did. That's pretty bad. Now, Rabbi's not saying don't acknowledge it as a miracle. He's not saying that. But he says if you acknowledge it as a miracle, then it has to change you in some way. A secular Jew acknowledges it as a miracle, so what do they change? They stop speaking Lashon Hara. They stop eating pork. What changed them? It's a huge danger. Huge danger. Now, someone asked, second part of the question, that was kind of a long-winded answer there. How can someone who received prophecy even think of leading people towards licentiousness? Because the prophecy didn't mean as much to them as you might think. God came to them. How many people today, thousands of years later, how many people, if God would come to them and do an open miracle, how many of them would really change overnight? I'll give an example. Anyone who's ever had an out-of-body experience, how many people came back to Torah and mitzvah straight away? Yeah, I mean straight away. There's a book called The View from Above. It's about a woman. It's where a woman got clocked on the head by a beam about 5 stories high, 5, 6 stories high, something like that. Had an out-of-body experience, right? Came back to her body, and going through rehabilitation and other things. If I remember correctly, it took her about 6, 7 years before she became actually an Orthodox Jew. There's a lot of things she saw in that world. And people try to cool her down and say, yeah, don't worry about it. Just be like everyone else, this, that. But it took her 7 years. 7 years. But she saw unbelievable things. She saw exactly what the Zohar says, right? Her soul hovered over her body drawn to this, this white light, saw her life flash before her eyes, right? Everything went on in her life. I mean, everything that it says. It's going to say once that person woke up, and let's say they get all the rehabilitation and everything else, so they become an Orthodox Jew now. They should have been Orthodox Jew straight away. Why not? Because you get cooled off. Anyone has some sort of epiphany, spiritual epiphany, grab it for whatever you can. Doesn't last very long. Right? Definitely doesn't last very long. So therefore, even if God came to him and told him, I want, you're not going to be able to curse the Jewish people. And still inside you, see, he's rotten to the core. You definitely see that, but it's at a very high, sophisticated level. So even if he says, tells Balak, of course, I'll try this, I'll try that. God doesn't want me to curse. Why does he still try anyway? Right? Why does he still try? Because prophecy does not make you righteous. That's the answer. Now, you tell me, someone at that level, shouldn't they change their life? Shouldn't they want to be better? Shouldn't it be this, that? Yeah. You would think if they internalize the message. It's one of the things I spoke my drasha yesterday. Parshas Chukah said, you look at Paraduma, the red heifer. Right? The red heifer is the essence of what a chok is, the law we don't understand. Right? It makes the Kohen sprinkle the ashes on someone who's impure, makes that person pure, the Kohen impure. Makes no sense. Makes no rational sense. Comes along Ramosha Feinstein, a blessed memory, Torah giants of the last generation, according to everybody, right, in America, and it would have been a Torah giant in Israel or anywhere else. So Ramosha Feinstein brings down his commentary on Chumash, Drash Moshe. He says on Parshas Korach, he said, why did Korach go against Moses and Aaron? Really against Aaron, right? Wanted to be the high priest. Wouldn't have gone against Moses because Moses was considered like the king. Went against the king, they would have killed him. So he came out against the high priest, right? Moses gave it to him, and he, Aaron got it because he had connections. Well, I'm just as great as Aaron. And he saw great people coming out of him, and in the future, blah blah blah. So Moshe finds an ass. So where did he go wrong? Where in the world did he go wrong? Saw all the miracles, right? Saw all the miracles in Egypt, and he survived. He saw the man, saw the miracles, in the desert, right? Then carried the ark. He didn't die. I mean, he's at a high level here. So what happened? Says Moshe Feinstein, he didn't get the message. The message was everything's a chok. If Korach would have understood everything is by the Ber Hashem Elo Moshe Lemor, God spoke to Moshe saying, Moshe didn't make it up himself. He wasn't showing favoritism because that's what God told him to do. So why in the world do you think he's overlooking you? That's what God said. Right? But he was jealous. Jealous he killed him. Right? Jealous he killed him. He took 250 great people with him. They started mocking, right? Started mocking Moses and Aaron and whatever. But think about it. Says Ramosha Feinstein, if it would have got the message, and if it would have understood the whole Torah itself is a chok, it's a law. We don't understand every single thing in the Torah. Why would anybody sin? Yeah, I'll rely on this leniency, that leniency. I'll do other things. We use Webster's fifth definition. Very good. Why is the person going to do it? Why don't you just look at everything is just a chok? The law we don't understand, but you got to keep it anyway. Right? I forgot to mention that. You got to keep it anyway, regardless of whether you understand it more or less. Korach didn't get that message. He didn't internalize that message. And then it caused his whole destruction. So now, same thing. Same thing. You say by Bilam, this great prophet, and God came to him, and this and that. Okay. Yeah. But he's still rotten to the core. He didn't get his own message. He lived a horrific lifestyle. No question. Right? It's also something not so understood. So what about bestiality? Person gonna be that disgusting? I mean, Torah says forbidden. I'll get there one day. I don't know when. Right? In the next chapter. Right? We'll get there one day. And, but bestiality is also forbidden for non-Jews. Also forbidden. Now, maybe it's not so common in general, but it happens. Definitely happens. Torah doesn't warn you about something that, is just a fairy tale. Right? It happens. God knows the nature of man. It can happen. But what did he do? What is the purpose? Yeah, and he gets chastised by the donkey. God opens the donkey's mouth. Says, I've been with you this whole time. Lived together, done other things together. What are you doing hitting me? You're doing, and then God opened his eyes and he saw an angel with a sword. Right? You see an angel with a sword, and he got, and the donkey crushes him against the wall because they don't want to get killed. And he's like, what are you, so Bill's screaming at him, what are you doing? God opened up his mouth. So I've been with you all these times. Is that what in the world's going on here? Right? In order to have, certain level of power, in this world, some people, what they want to do is they want to tap into the most impure things. And the most impure things, right? There are people, I remember learning that, some people hang out in graveyards. Why in the world do you hang out in a graveyard? You have nowhere else to go. No one else around, to hang out with. You have to go in a graveyard. In a graveyard? What's in a graveyard? Impurity. Very high levels of impurity. Highest level of impurity. Right? Cohen has to be in a higher state of purity, so he can't go there. Yeah, but we could, we're in a state of impurity also. But anyway, so we go there. We say Psalms there. We speak to whoever's there. Telling them, what we've done, what we're going through, different things. Not praying to them, per se. But there's a tremendous amount of impurity. Father Vilna Gaon said, a person should really go to graves because there's a high level of impurity, extremely high level of impurity. Now, a person is really steeped in all this. What do they want more? They want more of that impurity. That impurity is power. So he's trying, again, according to Kabbalah, it's a whole different thing, but trying to take out this impurity by that act, not just he's a disgusting individual. He is, right? That there's no question, right? But you ask the question, okay, if God came to him and he's got, prophecy at a very high level, how could he do this? So is Bill any different than Aristotle? Different. Aristotle didn't have a Gilui, right? Didn't have a revelation by God, per se. But Aristotle himself was also disgusting. Yeah, and many things he did. Because your mind can only take you so far. But here's a different thing. Here he wants to tap into into sorcery, in other things to make it much more powerful. Again, it's not something we necessarily understand. You're going to say, oh, this person's so brilliant. How could he do it? Because that is power. Why would people, as we said, as the Ramban brought in from the Rambam, why would people, eat blood? To have contact with demons so they can know the future. Power. Knowing the future? Imagine if you knew, the future, what you could do. I don't mean the future can, 100% is going to happen. Things could change, right? Anything could change. But, let's say a person knew the future, right? You remember Back to the Future. Someone got a copy of, I don't know, sports book. Everyone who won the championships during that year or during those years or whatever, person made a mint. If you're going to bet on those teams, you get inside information that makes you the king, right? That would make you the king because, you're in the biggest role of your life. This team's going to win, that team's going to win, this team will lose. You got all the information right in front of you, but that's power, right? Going in, we don't really see it today, right? We're not necessarily in those circles, but people have this kind of power, sorcery in general. It's why non-Jews also not allowed to do, tap it. So you'll say, well, why did God allow it? God allowed it to give you free choice. He didn't tell you to do it. He doesn't want you to do it, but he gave you the power to choose. That's why God created evil, for that purpose, doesn't make God evil. He allows people to tap in if they want. Why the Christians very good. They change things because it doesn't fit their world outlook. Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7, it says God created evil. Well, they totally mistranslate that. Yeah, it makes sense because who's doing evil if you're a Christian? Satan. right? Mr. S, evil inclination, angel of death. He's a fallen angel. Well, we don't believe in that. He doesn't have independent powers, we always say. So he can't do anything outside of what God wants. He allows Mr. S to test people. Right? We're in this world to be tested. So if that's true, right? If that's true, then what? Then we have the ability, we have to fight against these temptations. But God put it in the world to test us. Doesn't mean he's evil. A person wants to tap. Now you get into the question. A person wants to tap into evil, very good. They want to cause problems to other people, they're going to be liable. Now, nothing happens for no reason. God's using that person to get to you, very good. Right? He's using that person as a stick, so not so easy. So why is God doing that? Could be for any number of reasons. Main reason could be because you deserve it. Because of sin. Right? You did something wrong. We'll throw out the possibility, maybe it's what your soul has to go through, reincarnated and all that. Well, let's say not. Let's say majority of things we go through in this world because of what we did. Not everything, but because of what we ourselves did, what we caused. So could someone have, quote unquote, a connection to God, and, that level and still be a disgusting individual? Sure. You can say, oh, but all these people are all fakers, seeing the church and seeing other things. But then they don't have any real connection here. That whole thing is fake. That's a different issue. Right? So that makes the question stronger. But if he was at this level and God actually came to him and God wanted him to do things and he didn't want to, whatever, right? So you're going to say, but what about all the terrible things? So prophecy doesn't make you a tzaddik. Prophecy doesn't make you righteous. It's not what it does. Now you tell me it should. But again, I'm going to make it very real. If God would come to any of us directly or whatever, through a image, through a intermediary, but we understand 100% it's God coming to us and God's giving us a message. Are we going to be the most righteous people shortly thereafter? Are we going to change straight away? So you tell me, like we said, depends on the person. If the person's a vessel to do it, to accept it's one thing. If they're not a vessel to see it, then why is God doing it? So that's a good question. That would be a good question. But again, what do I see clear? What I see clear is prophecy doesn't make the person righteous. Shouldn't it? I would think. What happened to Achav? He wants to go first, but he was rotten to the core. He had gaiva. Totally conceited. Right? God's trying to bring him back. And God says, me, you, and Ben Yishai, and the son of Jesse, we're going to stroll in Gan Eden. Can I go first? No. Okay, not interested. Serious? It's very hard to understand. Except for the fact that if a person's got crooked character traits, he dies with crooked character traits. And God has to purge it out of them if there's anything left of them to have a portion of the world to come. But that's who they are. That's what they represent. And even if God comes and says, I'm going to let you stroll with me and King David in paradise, very good. Can I go first? No. Not interested. According to our puny brains, it's hard to understand. Right? But the simple answer is, if you're not going to be a vessel to accept and to change, then it's a waste of time. Essentially. Then nothing's going to come out of it. What you're going to see is not going to change. So it says the Brisker Rav, as we said before, you got to be a vessel. If you're not going to be a vessel, didn't God know Bilam wasn't going to be a vessel here? Yeah. Right? But he wanted to acquiesce. He wanted to acquiesce the non-Jews and say, okay, you're complaining. If we had a prophet, we'd be just as great as the Jewish people. So God said, okay, I'll give you a prophet. I'll give you Bilam. They could easily say, Come on, you gave someone bad character traits, someone who's corrupt, someone this. If you would have given us someone better, you can say that about anything. It's like, oh, it's not fair. You gave us Bilam. Gave you somebody. Didn't change you. Didn't change you. Yeah. You find it surprising he loses Olam Hab. Who says he loses Olam Hab? Gemara says he got all four abramesis. Right? Abramesis means four corporal punishments. Right? His head cut off, body was burnt, got died of impact, and suffocated. Right? So even though the Gemara says, even though we don't have corporal punishment today, normally we don't have corporal punishment, right? Because we don't have a Sanhedrin, right? We don't have someone, being stoned or molten lead thrown down their throat and all that for different things they do very good. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? If someone, God forbid, dies in a car crash, that's impact. That is like stoning. Now, can someone say this person died because they were liable for death by stoning? Nobody knows. Or someone got, God forbid, dies in a fire. Well, isn't that sreifa? Isn't that, similar to being burnt? You have molten lead thrown down your throat, the same thing, right? Your insides burn out, literally. Couldn't someone easily say, wow, that person died in the fire, he must have been liable for that? We have no idea. We have no idea what we see. Could it be? Could be. Very well could be. Gemara says, even though we don't have corporal punishment today, like in the temple, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Could exist in different ways. But nobody, and I mean nobody, can say that person got this because they're liable for that. Think about it. It's two people die in the car, right? Go back to that. Get hit by a missile. Right? You can say that's sreifa, or you get burnt, but it's impact. For sure it's impact. Right? No question. So if that's the case, couldn't say, well, they probably had it coming. They probably, desecrate Shabbos, maybe because of that, maybe other things. Nobody knows. Right? And no one should make statements because they don't know. Now, I'm not saying it can't happen. No one's going to accuse me of being a heretic. I'm not going to say, it's not the case, but we don't know for sure. Nobody knows. It's tragic. Anyway, a person's going to go, that's pretty tragic. Person drowned, suffocation. Yeah, can that be a corporal punishment? 100%. 100%. Is it? The calculation by God, nobody knows. I'm not saying it can't be, right? I'm not saying it can't be, but no one is going to say that's what it is. No one's going to say for certain that's what it is, right? Same thing by what happened on October 7th, right? Everybody, a lot of people were saying, well, they had it coming, desecration of Shabbos, desecration of the festival, they had a Buddha there, all true. 100% all true. Didn't help their cause. But that can't be the reason. Because there's already a decree made by Rosh Hashanah. If I were to have a decree made by Rosh Hashanah, that can't be the reason. Now, did that help? No. But that's not direct. From their desecration of Shabbos getting killed, wow, that's pretty amazing. God hit them straight away. That decree was already made. Right? So that can't be the reason. It didn't help them by any stretch, but that's not the reason. Right? That's definitely not the reason. I asked my Rebbe this about somebody many years ago. Shortly after Gush Katif, when the Jews were thrown out of that area down south, basically to get back to the Arabs. Shortly thereafter, Sharon had a stroke, had a major stroke. Basically was a vegetable for, 10 years till he died. So I asked him, I said, is that, you think that's the reason? Because he, sent all the Jews packing and whatever, when he put them there in the first place. But my Rebbe said very clear. He said, there are probably worse things he did. He didn't say that, that's direct. He said, we don't know, but that probably wasn't the cause. Probably worse things that he did before that. So, nobody knows. People can conjecture. Okay. They can conjecture, but we don't, we can't say for sure. Is that potentially what the punishment could be? Yes. Impact is skila, right? Worst punishment a person could get, right? What would a person get skila for? Death by stoning, right? That we call impact would be for being a homosexual. Bestiality. Yeah. Someone dies in a fire, could be, immorality. Yeah. So could be. Not saying not. Can anyone say 100%? No. Nobody can make that claim. Man's driving on the road, difficult conditions, rear ends another car. Okay. And the driver caused financial damage. Isn't that a decree from Rosh Hashanah? That a person's being careless. Who said he was careless? Maybe he skidded on the road. That's not being careless. Right? But he caused damage. Right? So how's God going to exact? You're right. It's a decree. Right? It's a written decree that didn't get annulled. So he had to pay the price. Literally. Right? Damage his own car, damage someone else's car. Right? If it's negligence, it's worse. Could be God made him do that like that. I don't know. But you're right. It doesn't matter if it's a decree or not. He's liable. God wants this person to lose money and cause damage. He uses car as a vehicle to do it. Yeah. But isn't the person liable? It's liable. He's definitely liable. Yeah. Well, if the road was slick, it wasn't his fault. Then it's an onus. Right? If it's something totally not in his control, it's an onus. Okay. Person's is, let's say, they're driving in a place, it's a torrential downpour. Can't see 2 feet in front of you. Yeah, the person caused someone damage. Now you're going to say that can happen. Logical, it could happen. You're going to say, well, you shouldn't be in that situation. Person is in that situation now. They didn't listen to the news. They didn't hear the weather report, and even if they did, they said, it's probably, they're probably not so right, whatever. They get stuck in the middle of this torrential downpour. However long it is, they can't see 2 feet in front of them. And now they're in hazardous driving conditions. They cause damage. Can they say it's an onus? Not an onus. Who said to be out there? The other person's insurance company is going to claim it for sure. They're going to say, hit my car. What do you want? It's a torrential downpour. So what can the person answer? I didn't hit your car. I didn't damage anyone else. It's a question of being careless here. We're not even talking about being careless. You're still liable. Right? Being careless is like doing it on purpose. Right? You're taking chances. Who tells you to drive 65 in a 35-mile-an-hour zone? Right? Then you skid out of control and whatever. Yeah. That's negligence. Negligence like you did on purpose. You weren't careful. If it was something beyond your control, different issue. That's a totally different issue. Right? Even if it's a written decree, are you liable? You're liable. Why in the world shouldn't you be liable? Of course you're going to be liable. Because there's no way out of it. The only question is, what's the damage going to be from? How's God going to have it happen? It could happen this way, it could happen that way. But you're right, the divine decree doesn't get stopped. They're going to say, okay, it's divine decree, what do I have to pay? Because that's what you have to do. Divine decrees can be uprooted. Might be hard to uproot them, but you can uproot them. And if it doesn't get uprooted, right, then you're liable. And for sure you're liable. Yeah. Someone here mentions they're in a country they use blood in gravies and sauces. If you eat it, you still don't know, or you're still liable. Yes. You're still liable, right? At a lower level. It'd be at a lower level. But there's another question that comes with that, and that is, let's say a person went to a kosher restaurant and the meat was treif. Meat wasn't kosher, right? Happened in the States. A while ago, it's like I think a Chinese restaurant was actually owned by a non-Jew, but had certain rabbinic supervision, and for years they were serving non-kosher meat. So there's a whole question: if a Jew ate non-kosher meat, does it affect them? Right? We've spoken about this before. That's a negative effect on a Jew. Doesn't apply to a non-Jew, but has a negative effect on a Jew. Yeah. So I remember I asked someone this. Someone pointed out to me the source, and the source in Jewish law that says even if they didn't know about it, right? The question is, if they didn't know about it, does it affect them? So I would have thought maybe it doesn't. They didn't know about it. It wasn't their fault. They're relying on this rabbinic supervision, and they got messed up. So why should it have a negative effect? And the answer is because when a Jew eats non-kosher, it has a negative effect, regardless whether you did it willingly or not, or you didn't even know about it. Right? Even better, you had no idea. You did not know about it whatsoever. Right? Does it affect you or not? And the answer is it does. 100% it does. Now, if you eat now, according to this, we have blood. Germany's no different. Germany also serves plenty of things that have blood in it. Yeah. So the question is, if you didn't know about it, if you could have known about it, you didn't know about it, it's one thing. If you never knew about it at all, it's a lower level. You're still liable, though. You're still 100% going to be liable. You can say, but it's an onus. I had no idea. Right? Doesn't mean you're not going to be liable here. Right? You're going to say, how could I have been more careful? I don't know. But the fact that it was done, right? The case I mentioned before is stronger. The fact that the person eats non-kosher affects them negatively, even if it affects them negatively, but they didn't know. Right? So does it affect them? Yes. Still has an effect. Mind-boggling idea. Because it doesn't matter what you knew or what you didn't know. It affects your insides, period. Right? So even if you don't know over here, it's still liable. It's a lesser level. Again, it's going to depend really, on the case. Could you have found out? If there's no possible way you could have found out. It's not as serious, but, it's still, a person has a certain level of liability. Somebody asks, what if a thief kidnaps a child? Yeah. So you go to the authorities, do whatever you can to try and bring the child back. Right. If you know someone, this happens, fortunately, this happens a lot where people are, just people disappear. I hear about it all the time. Sometimes actually, kids are actually found, let's say. But there are a lot of times, years and years go by and never find them. Right? You do whatever you can. You contact, local authorities, do whatever you can, try and find them. Get an obligation, especially if it's your kid, for sure. Right? But I don't know what the odds are, so I'm not an expert in this by any stretch. How many kids that are taken are actually found. I would think the number is a lot smaller. Right? Kids that are actually kids that disappear that are actually found. I mean, we're not talking about a case where someone someone ran away. That's different. It's a different issue. Someone's actually taken against their will. You do whatever, you turn over the world, try and find them. All right, you go to local authorities, do whatever you can. All right, but if at the beginning you don't find them, it's going to be very hard. I can't think of something more cruel than a person has a kid, gets taken. And it happens. Unfortunately, it happens a lot. Kids get taken and you never find them, or God forbid you find them dead or whatever. Kids go missing. Again, I don't know what the odds are, but a lot of times, more time goes by, the worse it is. Either you just have no idea where they are, or they're, God forbid, they're dead. Until you find them. It's so you have to go to the authorities. There's not much more you can do. You go to the authorities and do whatever you can. Try and find them. Interesting enough, the Torah says the Ten Commandments don't steal. right? So Rashi there says, others say, what does that mean? It means don't, it can't be a thief, can't kidnap. That's what it's talking about, kidnapping. Because the Torah says in different places, before that, you're not allowed to steal. So the fact that you're not allowed to steal, what's the Torah adding over here? The Torah also says don't steal. It's one of the 10 Commandments. You can say, oh, since one of the 10 Commandments, much more strict, blah, blah, blah. Rashi doesn't say that. Rashi says we already know it. We already know it in other places. So it can't mean don't steal because the Torah's not repetitive. The Torah doesn't tell me things for no reason. Right? So Rashi and others over there say it's going to be talking about kidnapping. Right? Because otherwise, stealing in general, we already know from other places. Someone here mentioned, back to Bilam, because he saw the angel of God, he fell on his face. So he's more afraid of the angels. The person, let me ask you, if a person saw, person saw God face to face at the coming, at Mount Sinai. They all died. Came back to life, right? Twice, at least twice that happened because the experience was so great, right? The experience was unbelievable. So some say it happened 10 times when God, however he said over the 10 commandments, they all died, came back to life. Some say it was only by 2, and the rest they said, Moses, you tell us what God said because we can't handle the experience. Seeing God face to face, is extremely potent. Now, seeing an angel, see by Manoach, when he saw an angel, he and Hannah, they had tremendous fear. You want to tell me they didn't fear God? Of course they feared God. But here they saw an angel of God. Right? So he's not a fool for being afraid of an angel. Right? The question is, it's not a question whether he feared the angel more. He also feared God. He also had fear of God, but not enough fear not to do what he did. Well, think about it. He saw the angel. Did that change him? That didn't change him. Doesn't mean he had more fear of the angel than of God, right? But his attitude to God was that, you're right. I'm not allowed to curse, the Jewish people. I want to do it anyway. And if God would have revealed himself, let's say he wouldn't have bowed down to him. He wouldn't have shown fear of him. Of course he would have. No difference. No difference at all. Right? Did that make him so righteous that he bowed down to an angel? Did it make him more righteous? He was still the scumbag that he was. Right? No one disagrees. Right? It doesn't mean he had more fear of the angel than God. It doesn't mean that. He had plenty of fear of heaven, but not enough to change him. Not enough to change him. Now, if he sees an angel, all right, we'll make it pretty clear. He sees an angel with the sword. He understands he's going to be dog meat over here. You don't think he's going to show fear? He sees that right in front of his face. Yeah, he knows that sword going to go right through him. And he's going to, make him into mincemeat over here, no pun intended. That's why he didn't have fear of God. But the level of fear of God that he had, let's say, even if he had it, wasn't enough to change him. The revelation wasn't enough to change him. And you think seeing the angel changed him? Didn't change him. He was afraid of his life. That didn't change him. And look what he did afterwards. So it was a question of fear. He had more fear of the angel, than of God. Why was he afraid of the angel? Because the angel had a humongous sword. He had a humongous sword. Right? That was going to kill him and his donkey together. Shish kebab. Right? Take this huge sword. Could have made mincemeat out of both of them. That's real fear. That's right in front of his face. And he's thinking in the back of his mind, if I escape and I'm still alive, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. That didn't change him. That didn't make him righteous. If you would have seen that, yeah, he repented and he had regret and he had remorse and he's never going to do this. And he's still trying to do what he did. He's just terrified for his life. Yeah. But again, a person who sees has this revelation from God. And it's pretty direct, pretty amazing, doesn't change. And he still wants to do the same thing. And the answer is because to the core, he's rotten. Even by seeing God at whatever level, he does not become righteous. That's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. I gave examples why that could be. Because the soul is corrupt. Okay, so what did God come to? Okay, that's a good question. But even that, if you're not a vessel, says the Brisker of, if you're not a vessel to accept the holiness, you're not going to accept it. It's not going to change you, even if God would come right in front of your face. Because you got to be the vessel, right? The reason he's bowing to the angel, and anyone would bow to anyone who's got a sword that big, or any big, right? And he sees this fiery angel, that's pretty scary. Yeah. Well, when God reveals himself, and tells him, he's still corrupt. Doesn't mean he doesn't have fear. Right? It's a different type of thing here. That's what I would say. Right, Bill was so self-absorbed. Somebody here says, yeah. Again, you have to remember one thing. Bilam himself, he tells Balak, listen, I can never curse God. I can never curse the Jewish people. God's never going to allow me. But he says, I am pretty good at what I do. So I want you to, I want you to pay me this amount. Like, makes him pay a ransom, huge ransom. To be able to do this, even though he knows he can't do it. That's ego. Total ego. Yeah. But again, the holiness doesn't change you. Because the soul is corrupted. Soul is totally corrupted. So he does all these other things to bring on more and more and more impurity. That's how bad the soul was. Right? So you can ask, okay, so why does God, go to him? Why does he even reveal himself? At any level. Again, the non-Jews had a claim. They had a claim. If you would give us a non-Jewish prophet, we'd be better than the Jewish people. So much better. God said, okay, let's see. I'll give you Bilam. If he gave us Bilam, it's so great. And if he would have given anyone else, could have said the same thing. Oh, I could have done this, could have done that. They weren't going to change. They weren't going to become the Jewish people based on non-Jewish prophets. It wasn't going to happen. But God said, I'll placate you. I'll throw you a bone. What's the bone I'm going to throw you? I'm going to throw you the bone of, give you a non-Jewish prophet. We'll see if that non-Jewish prophet changes you or not. But again, the easiest thing they can say is, should have given it to someone better. Don't make excuses. This is who you got. Someone on that level, at a certain level. Okay. But you weren't going to become who you are through anybody. Not through him, not through anybody. That was the point. That was the point. Someone here mentions Bill only feared angel because his life was on the line. And just like the leftist protesters with no fear of Hashem. They don't fear anybody. They just go according to what they go through. But left is a whole different, it's a whole different whatever, it's a whole different thing. Listen, you got, leftists in the States, they're, they think they're doing, all these great things. They're running the country into the ground. Totally into the ground. They think that's, the benefit for America. Okay. Yeah. I don't know how letting, 10 million migrants come in the country is going to help, cause all kinds of other problems and whatever without necessarily getting into politics. But, people have an agenda. They don't care if they take anyone else down with them. Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. They don't care. It's only in their interest, whatever their interests are, or the interests of those who are in charge. The interests of their own people. You see it by rogue countries. You see it by dictators They don't care if their own people starve. You got Hamas. They don't care if their own people die. Right? That's their whole motto. Our own people are going to die with everybody else. We'll use them as human shield. That's idiocy. Anyone could get out. They should. They're going to get sacrificed. The people are idiots. They're madmen. It's for the greater cause. Using human shields is for the greater cause. A lot of world sympathy. True. They're not stupid. They understand how it works, the psyche of man. They understand. The more time goes on, the worse it is for Israel, no matter what they do. They know that. They're playing all the parts here. Make Israel look really bad. And how many civilians they kill and this and that. It's killed, one of their higher ups. They claim all these civilians were killed. Could be. What are you going to do? Part of the game. It's what war is. But make them real bad. Look real bad. Should have done it this way. Should have done it that way. You get people embedded. Among civilians. What are you supposed to do? You can only do what you can do. You warn people this, that, we're doing this, doing that, and that's it. No, the people got killed in Iraq. Anyone making a claim? When America went in? No. There were thousands of people that were killed, not just terrorists. Thousands of civilians. Anyone say anything? Don't bat an eyelash. You don't say anything about, Syria? 600,000 people that killed, gassed their own people. Anyone make any protests in universities against Syria? Or the massacres in Rwanda? Different issue. A different issue, but they're playing on the media. And they're playing them very well. Israel's up against the wall. They just got to say, go to hell, and we're going to do what we need to do. World opinion, they have to say, they have to say we don't care. But, world opinion is important. So they keep saying over and over, we're doing everything in our power. They're using them human shields. They know that. That don't stop them. It still makes them look bad. It's mind-boggling. You got the UNRWA. Also part of this. Finally, they got a few brains trying, going to defund them. It's crazy. Humanitarian group, whatever. They're fascist. These people are madmen. But they're not stupid. Propaganda-wise, they're doing a great job. Israel's got all the marbles here. They were attacked, massacred, brutally massacred. It only lasted a week before they got slack. Mind-boggling. Not normal. It's totally not normal. Then to see everything that's going on, these quote-unquote pro-Palestinian protests, these thugs, whatever. Anti-Semitism up the gazoo. Then you got heads of colleges can't say that annihilation of a specific group is ever bad. It depends on the context. That's insanity. That is insanity. No other ethnic group would ever stand up such a thing. If it happened to certain groups, they'd burn down the entire country. I don't think there's anything to talk about. And that's not being racist. That's clear. And most people understand that. What happens to Jews? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. This is one of the lessons. First of all, intellectuality does not make you moral. And second of all, and what's going to happen in the end of days? The only person you can rely on is Avinu Shabbat. The only person you can rely on is God himself, not on man. We need a lot of mercy, tremendous amount of mercy. Everywhere. But there are people that understand if you don't stop them now, they're going to go all over the place. These maggots, they'll go all over the world. Trying to make their claim, their cellophate, whatever. They'll massacre everyone in their path. Either be like us or die. That's essentially what it is. But they got them everywhere. Everywhere. In every country. That's the fear. You get all over Europe. these very, significant minorities. And there are places that police will not go for good reason. Now the whole world's a part of king. It's a lot worse now that you got Iran involved. You got Hezbollah, you got, hundreds of thousands of missiles. Who knows? Who knows what's going to be? But, propaganda, very, very strong against Israel. Very strong. No matter what they do, they look bad. No matter what. As humanitarian as they can be. Like someone said, there's no solution. Because you got a whole generation. We're going to put in power afterwards. So I'll get into politics there. You got a whole generation brainwashed by Hamas. Now, you got some people there that don't want them there. Okay, but they have the power. Yeah. They got the guns or whatever. So, like someone said, you can't change the faith of a whole generation. They've indoctrinated a whole generation, right? So I said it's not going to be popular to say, but I said it. I've said it, I'm not the only one who says it. There's only one way. You massacre everybody. There's no other way. Rameir Kahana, Hashem, you come dumb. God should avenge his blood, said it years ago. Many, many years ago. You take these Arabs, you put them on egged buses, put them on these buses, send them out of the country. That's the only way. That's the only way to stop them. Because they're going to cause a tremendous amount of pain amongst the Jewish people. He's right. Way, way ahead of his time. He was 100% right. Yeah, we can't do that politically. That's political suicide. Yeah, in the long run, he's right. But you're always going to have problems with them. Yeah, but you got a whole generation indoctrinated. Maybe, the great-grandchildren you can save. Maybe. You got a whole generation. You think the ones in the territories are any better? Quote unquote, the ones, here in Israel, they're all the same. They want all Jews to die. You go, a person, driving with Waze ends up, a Jew ends up in a Arab city, you're as good as dead. You're as good as dead. Anywhere. Anywhere in Israel. Not being racist, these are the facts. Right? So who are you dealing with? You say, no, Hamas is worse. They're all the same. They want Jews to die everywhere. Not just in Israel, because they believe it's theirs. Everywhere. Everyone has to understand this. America doesn't get it. So the West doesn't get it. Right? Europe doesn't get it. Nobody gets it. They want all Jews to die. And anyone who doesn't believe like that. Right? Everyone else, okay, they'll deal with. Who's top of the totem pole? Jews. That's what they want. They make it very clear. Make it very, very clear. So how do you fight that? There's no way to fight that. Because you got generations being indoctrinated that way. So again, it's not popular to say. You got to wipe out every single one of them. You don't leave anyone alive. That's the only way. I mean, I wish there was another solution. I'm not, but these people are not innocent. They have videos which no one should watch of all these, quote unquote, peaceful people, that live in Gaza. Yeah, they were butchering bodies and who knows what. Going into these cities that they ransacked, stole. These people are animals. They're absolute animals, every single one of them. And people say, oh, come on, there got to be some people that are good there. Maybe you got a handful. Everyone else totally corrupt, totally brainwashed. So what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? You kill them before they kill you. Then what are you calling for mass genocide? I don't know. You find a better solution. What are you supposed to do? There's no easy way out. Yeah, somebody mentions again about Bilam. Bilam had a powerful gift through suggestion. It was prophecy. It wasn't suggestion. It's prophecy. No one disagrees he had prophecy. When it says won't be a great prophet and a great Jewish prophet like Moses ever again, yeah, great Jewish prophet, not necessarily non-Jewish prophet. He had the power of prophecy. No one disagrees. But he used it for the wrong things. It just goes to show how corrupt somebody can be, and that they can have this revelation and still be corrupt. Right? It's mind-boggling how that works. Logically, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, at a certain level. But that's what you have. Someone here asks, for example, shows Hashem feared Hashem. He put his words in his mouth. But what did Bilam say? Look at what Bilam said. Bilam said, I can't, God doesn't want me to curse. Okay? He understands. You want to say that's not fear? How about that? It doesn't, in other words, fear, a person has fear of Hashem. The lowest level of fear is punishment. They're afraid they're going to get punished. That's the lowest level. What's the greatest level of fear? Greatest level of fear is what we call Yiras Hisromamus, which means that a person understands how God runs the world, right? Meaning that God's in charge. Look what God did, how he created nature and the human body, right? It's the awesomeness of what God does, right? He keeps the earth away from the sun so we don't get incinerated, or not too far away so we don't become like Pluto, that frozen tundra, right? No offense, Pluto's been demoted as a planet. It's the awesomeness. He had that, but that didn't stop him, right? That's the point. You gotta say, how can a person have fear of God and do all these things? So it's one of two things: either evil inclination's that strong, right? It is much more powerful, right? Or the level of fear of God is not as strong. Yeah. But again, I'm just pointing out, having a sword against your neck with a fiery angel would I think would put you on your knees. Would put you on your knees, fear for your life. Okay. So why does that person fear for their life every time they sin? Does that mean they don't have fear of God? They might have fear of God. It could be a low level. Doesn't mean that, doesn't mean it doesn't have it. Right? He thought he could outsmart God to a certain extent. But he said, God's never going to let me curse you. God's never going to let me do this. He understands. Now you want to say it's not fear? I don't know. If he had fear of God, he wouldn't have done these things, but he's corrupt. You gotta understand he's corrupt, but why is he corrupt? Is he corrupt because, he just got tremendously bad character traits? There are plenty of people, who fear God, but they also have bad character traits. Now you're gonna say this bad? All right, okay, so that we could argue on. Right? Wasn't Bilam also the one who suggested to Pharaoh kill all the male children of Israel? Yeah. He was also one that gave that piece of advice. Yeah. So you want to say he never had fear of heaven? I don't know. I don't know if I go that far. He had some level of fear of heaven. Might not have been strong. He had some level. Right? Again, if anyone saw a fiery angel and they got a fiery sword and they look like they're going to kill you, yeah, anyone would be on their knees. For sure. What about Achav, and God came to him, he didn't have fear of heaven? It's always corrupt. I get it. Right? Is he going to say anything bad against God and this and that? Well, he got some level. Right? I don't think it's non-existent. He's corrupt. It's true. Right? Not going to deny that. Definitely not going to deny that. Right? But it would make much more sense. He's going to be afraid of an angel. Even if he saw God, he's still going to be afraid of an angel because he's got a sword right up his nose. Right? That would make more sense. Somebody asks, someone there points out, very good. Now I understand what is meant. The wicked won't even repent at the gates of Gehenna, right? Because even if they're right by the gate of hell, right, their soul is corrupt enough that it's not going to change them. Right? It's like a person gets angry, same thing. Right? Same thing. Somebody mentioned things like Bilam fell to wanted to be righteous, but he fell. Listen, the evil inclination killed him. Well, it kills everybody. Why didn't he join the Jewish people? He hated the Jewish people. He didn't want to join. Wasn't interested in joining. Right? That was the whole question. Why did he not, instead of cursing the Jewish people, trying to curse the Jewish people, why did he not bless Balak? That would have made more sense. Should have blessed it. But he had such inherent, hatred for the Jewish people. Right? He wanted to curse them more than bless Balak. Torah says those who call Hashem in truth cause an arousal. Okay. If they call it in truth. In truth, I agree. Right? If you don't call in truth, what happens? So it's false. I get it. Right? But again, the whole thing is hard to understand. How someone can reach, can reach that level. How many people, now again, think about it. How many people can figure out the precise second that God gets angry? Nobody, or very few people. He was gifted in so many different ways, but he used the gifts for the wrong thing. Right? Don't we see that all the time? People can have certain gifts and they abuse them, right? Or certain levels of power and they abuse it. So you can say, why did God give it to them? It's a test. Certainly is a test. Yeah. Doesn't God know what they're going to do with it anyway? Okay, but everyone has free choice. Everyone has free choice. But people can do things, gain things, but abuse it because it was not fair. Okay. No one's saying life is about what's fair or not fair, right? Person's given a certain amount of money, a ton of money because they can shoot a ball or kick a ball, or whatever. Do we really care what they have to say about anything? Or politics, about anything? They don't know anything. Or an actor, director, whatever, is Jewish, and it's like, come on, you believe these fairy tales, this and that. Like, you think I can take what this guy says seriously at all? Can't even read the alphabet? Right? I would entertain the possibility of having a conversation. I would say first, at least know how to read the alphabet. At least know some of the sources. You don't know any of the sources. Why would I take what you say seriously? At all. I wouldn't. I'm not even going to humor you. Well, my opinion is just as valid, though. In Torah? No. Your opinion is not valid because you never learned. Now, I think this and I think that. You ever research it? Yeah, but that's the idea. Someone even at the pit of hell, you hear all the screaming, this and that, they're not going to change. Why? Because they're corrupt. Soul is corrupt. They don't change. Someone is angry, same thing. So the same thing. That's why you never start up with someone who's angry. You wait for their anger to dissipate. Because even if the Gemara says, even if they were standing by the pit of hell, they wouldn't change. They'd still be angry. Same thing. Right? Same idea. Someone asked, can a Noahide enter a cemetery to visit a loved one? Yes. That is not that's not a problem. That is not a problem. Someone mentions Rashi says that Ganem doesn't exist. I like to see a source for that because just about everyone else says that it does exist, right? And there will be punishment there, and however it works, but there's quite a bit of detail. Rashis Chachma, goes through 7 different levels of hell. So I'd like to see a source for that he doesn't believe that. Kabbalistic sense, someone here says. Rashi says again, it might be interpreted as emphasizing transformative power of spiritual rectification. Whatever. No one's going to say you don't believe in it. That's one of the 13 principles. Can't go against one of the 13 principles of Maimonides, right? And that is the reward and punishment. Punishment means in that word, in Ganem, right? You can't deny that, right? That's why Menace Friedman's getting all kinds of flack. Well, one of the reasons, right? Because he says, you think God's going to really burn you? I don't know what that burning means, but your soul's going to feel it. However that works, I don't know how that works. But to say that doesn't exist, that's pretty bad. That's heresy. There's a reward and punishment. Oh, you really think God's going to? Then why does the Torah talk about it? Why does the Torah talk about Ganem? Why does the Torah talk about reward and punishment? God loves everybody? He doesn't love everybody. What does King David say? I love those that love you. I fight against those that hate you. He doesn't love everybody. If you spit in God's face, you went to marry, no matter what level of a Jew you are, you went to marry a non-Jew, God loves you? Who are you kidding? I have no idea where he gets that. Doesn't Koheles, Ecclesiastes, who's known as King Solomon, doesn't he say it's time to love, time to hate? God loves everybody who sins? I don't think so. Yeah, that's a big problem. But say Gehenna doesn't exist, right? Maybe different levels, different things. I don't know, right? But say the whole thing doesn't exist. No, you can't say that. Definitely can't say that. That'd be, it's much more problematic. Because it said Trump from future leader of the Jewish people. Wherever the part of Esav that's good. Yeah, right. I've heard him say that a number of times. Right. Atonement for the sins of Esav and Edom. Yeah. But it's interesting. He got thrown out of power. God brought him to power, right? Not going to get into politics here. You have to end in a minute anyway. But the fact is that, yeah, he did a lot of good, regardless of what people think. Certainly for the Jewish people. Even so, it'll be interesting to see what see what happens here. In fact, the wind caused both to graze his ear, not his head. Whatever. There's a lot of things there, right? It's gonna be interesting to see how everything comes out. But I will say one thing. I'm not saying a conspiracy theorist, per se, but it's interesting. There's a building right across the street, not very far. There wasn't like the roof wasn't sealed. Like usually that would be something that you want to make sure someone's not going to have clear blank range to shoot somebody in the, you know, and the roof wasn't secured. Also kind of, kind of interesting. So whatever, we'll see, see how it all unfolds. But someone told me this morning, or the fact that only grazed his ears, like, oh, there's no question he's going to win. So who knows? Who knows what's going to be? Very, I don't know. And we're living in interesting times. That's all I can say. If the repentance doesn't make America unholy, you're right. It doesn't make them holy. Right? Remember, anyone who came out against Israel, they're going to get destroyed in this war of Gog and Magog. They're going to get destroyed for sure. Right? There's no question. Right? Whoever's good, and kept the Noahide laws and did what they were supposed to do. So that part of it won't get destroyed if they repent. If they don't repent, they're all going to get destroyed. Right? The Malbim says the closest ones to Israel get destroyed first. Heard someone very big in Kabbalah disagree and say that Europe gets hit first because of all Jewish blood there that was spilled there, and other, whatever. So, are there going to be non-Jews left? I don't know how many, but if they kept the Noahide laws, they should be left. Right? They should survive, but again, it's going to be definitely going to be interesting. All right, let me just see one thing here. All right, I'm gonna stop here because I have to go. So I do this every Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As, ethics of our fathers, Torah portion of the week, which I'm very behind. Book of Leviticus, you want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHIMCOFFMAN at gmail.com. We're having a good beginning of the day, middle of the day, or almost end of the day, depending where you are. And